How's it going, guys? This is Jack here with the Commanders Wire, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be going over some cornerback free agents the Commanders could be looking toward in this free agency cycle coming up here in a couple weeks. We obviously know we have Mikey Sanders still, as well as Trey Amos, two emerging corners that are still very young. However, I would be looking to add a third corner in free agency to kind of make the entire cornerback room a little more well-rounded. And as well, depending on what the Commanders do in free agency, that will also kind of give us a better look into what the plan is for players like Quan Martin or even Mikey Sanders still. Whether they're going to be playing in the slot, maybe Quan Martin is going to stick at safety, maybe he's going to become a bench player. We'll just have to see. Before we get into the video, I really would appreciate it if you guys would go down below, drop a like, and subscribe, turn on post notifications to know when I post next, and I really would appreciate that. And as well, you guys would be notified whenever I post a new video regarding the Washington Commanders. I really do appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. I put out some news a couple days ago about the Commanders potentially hiring a new safeties coach who was formerly with the LSU Tigers. I believe his name was Jake Olson. However, he did not get hired by the Washington Commanders. I believe he's sticking with the LSU Tigers for the 2026 season. So the Commanders are looking toward either adding in another coach or even sticking with the same coaches they previously had during the 2025 season. But without further ado, let's get right into the video. I'm going to be going over 8 different cornerbacks that I believe the Commanders could be looking toward adding in this free agency cycle, whether they want them to be more of a backup kind of rotational guy or a day one starter. And the first guy we're going to be going over is Jeff Okuda, formerly with the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, he has that connection to Durante Jones, a former first-round pick. Stands at 6'1", 205 pounds. He's 27 years old, and this year with the Minnesota Vikings, he had 14 total tackles, with 12 of those being solo, 1 fumble recovery, and I believe that is it. He did not really get on the field that much. However, Jeff Okuda could be a decent rotational cornerback too for the Washington Commanders. He already knows that Durante Jones type of scheme that he wants to implement with the Washington Commanders, and I think that he may be a solid voice to have in the locker room as a bench player who could occasionally rotate in on certain downs. So Jeff Okuda is that first guy on my list. Next up is definitely going to be a higher priority cornerback. I believe that cornerback free agency market is going to be very vast this year, and there's going to be a lot of talent no matter what. So I think no matter what for the Washington Commanders, you definitely could land a top name and be fairly happy with whoever you're able to land, just because there's so many names on the market. Now, we have Jaylen Watson, formerly with the Kansas City Chiefs. He stands at 6'2", 197 pounds. He's 27 years old. He's a former 7th round pick, and this year with the Chiefs, he had 64 total tackles, 42 of those being solo, 2 sacks, 2 interceptions, 6 passes deflected. And I just think that he would be a great addition to the cornerback room with the Washington Commanders. He could move around the entire field. Obviously, he's shown to get a couple sacks here and there. Maybe if he schemed open, potentially pressing someone at the line of scrimmage and getting around the defensive line and grabbing a sack. I think he'd be a great addition to be this team's #1 corner. Trey Amos being the #2, and then either Quan Martin or Mikey Sanders being kind of that slot nickel corner to slide in on the line of scrimmage. So Jaylen Watson would be a top guy on my list if I were the Washington Commanders. Next up is someone that's a little bit more of a sleeper, not in the sense that his name is not really known, but more in the sense that he has not been as good as what he was hoped to be in the NFL, being Eric Stokes, formerly with the Las Vegas Raiders. He is 26 years old, stands at 6'1", 193 pounds. He is a former first-round pick in 2021. This year with the Las Vegas Raiders, he had 53 total tackles, 35 of those being solo, and only 5 passes deflected. Did not record a takeaway, unfortunately, but he is definitely someone that could be a solid pickup if gotten for the right price. Obviously, he was a former first-round pick with the Green Bay Packers, and they did not pick up his 5th-year option that allowed him to go to free agency, where he landed with the Las Vegas Raiders on a 1-year deal. And then maybe he could potentially land himself with the Washington Commanders this upcoming year. I don't think that he is going to be someone that would be this team's #1 corner. I think Trey Amos definitely would compete for that spot and allow himself to take over that role, and then Eric Stokes could be a solid #2. But Eric Stokes could be someone that, if any other name is not unfortunately landed, he could come in and be a solid #2 corner for the right price. Next up is going to be former Super Bowl champion Tariq Woolen. He is 26 years old, stands at 6'4", 210, former 5th round pick with the Seattle Seahawks. This year for the Seahawks, he had 41 total tackles, 33 of those being solo, 1 interception, and 12 passes deflected. So I think Tariq Woolen definitely has the frame to be a solid corner. Obviously, he's massive. However, one issue is his footwork. Another one of his issues is his attitude on the field. He definitely gets called for a lot of flags, and he could be made a fool on the field by some smaller, shiftier receivers. I don't think he's the best man corner in the world. Obviously, he'd be a great ball hawk in zone. He has the solid frame in order to be that, but I think he lacks certain skills in the shorter movement as a cornerback, and I think that's where he gets beat a lot of times on the outside with the Seahawks. However, I think his frame, I think his enthusiasm on the field is definitely something that the Washington Commanders could use. However, with some more development under Durante Jones, he could be a solid number 2 corner in the NFL. Another Seahawk is Josh Jobe. He is 27 years old, 5'11", 190 pounds. I think Josh Jobe be a better corner than Tariq Woolen with the Washington Commanders. This year for the Seahawks, he had 54 total tackles, 41 of those being solo, 1 interception, and 12 passes deflected. I think Josh Jobe would just be a safer option at corner. He could be the sort of 1B to Trey Amos 1A. I think Josh Jobe definitely has the talent to take on the best receivers in the league. I think Trey Amos has the talent to take on the best receivers in the league. So I think either way, no matter what, Josh Jobe would be a solid corner opposite of Trey Amos. He definitely has the talent to be more of what Durante Jones is looking for in a corner. I think he's solid in coverage. I think he's solid in press man. I think Josh Jobe definitely brings the entire skill set that Durante Jones is looking for in a cornerback, which would allow him to be a solid option in this year's free agency. Next up is someone that I've heard rumored to the Washington Commanders a lot to be this team's number 1 corner, being Nahshon Wright. He stands at 6'4", 199 pounds. He's 27 years old. This year for the Bears, he had 80 total tackles, 54 of those being solo, 2 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries, 5 interceptions, and 11 passes deflected. This guy's a number 1 corner no matter where he would go. I think if he does come to the Washington Commanders, that'd be a great pickup in this year's free agency. He'd be this team's number 1 corner, no questions asked. He is like, in my opinion, Tariq Woolen. However, his skills are a little more refined. I think he's better in press. I think he's better in man. I think he's able to be a solid corner in coverage as well. And I think that Nahshon Wright is someone that Tariq Woolen could get to after a year or 2 of development, but why have that when you could have Nahshon Wright right away? So Nahshon Wright personally would be one of my top 3 choices when it comes to signing a cornerback in free agency. I think that the way he takes away the football, Durante Jones wants to be all over this guy, and to acquire him in free agency would be a very solid pickup. I think it'd be one of the most solid pickups in the entire free agency class for the Washington Commanders, and I'd be a massive fan of that move. This guy's a little bit more of a sleeper. However, I think he'd be a solid number 2 corner in this Durante Jones defense that he wants to install with the Washington Commanders, being Montaric Brown, formerly with the Jacksonville Jaguars. This year for the Jaguars, he had 51 total tackles, 43 of those being solo, 2 interceptions, and 12 passes deflected. He stands at 6 foot even, 190 pounds, 26 years old. And I think Montaric Brown is just exactly what Durante Jones is looking for. I think he's a solid match corner. He's decent in coverage. He's decent in press man. And he's someone that would be a very good number 2 corner opposite of Trey Amos on the outside. And I think that with Jacksonville having a lot of cornerbacks and having some cap trouble this offseason, they could be looking toward letting go of another cornerback, as they just drafted Travis Hunter, who they said they're going to play mostly as a cornerback in this upcoming season. They traded for Greg Newsome, who actually I'm going to get to in a second. I forgot about him. But they did trade for Greg Newsome. They also have to pay him. So I think Montaric Brown is going to be the odd man out, and is someone that the Commanders could look towards adding into this year's free agency to be this team's cornerback too. However, the Jaguars could look into keeping Montaric Brown and maybe letting go of Greg Newsome, and that's who I'm going to go over right now. If the Jaguars want to stick with Montaric Brown and Travis Hunter, and then they have to get rid of Greg Newsome just because of how much money they have in cap space, they just have to make some harsh decisions. We could see Greg Newsome on the free agent market. Now, he's 25 years old, still very young, was just traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars from the Cleveland Browns. He stands at 6 foot even, 192 pounds. He had 52 total tackles, 41 of those being solo, 1 interception, 9 passes deflected, and I think Greg Newsome would also be a solid corner in the Durante Jones scheme. I think he's decent in man coverage. He's a little bit worse in zone coverage, but I think that he would instantly be this team's cornerback 1B compared to Trey Amos being the 1A. He was someone that I really liked coming out of college, and I think was a very solid corner when he was in Cleveland. And now if he's able to stay healthy and stay on the field and he's picked up by the Washington Commanders, I would not be mad at that at all. I think a lot of these corners that I have named today are players that I really would not be disappointed in the Commanders picking up at all. There's a lot of talent on the free agency market, and you really just have whatever you want to choose. Whatever you want to pay for, that's what you're going to get. Whether you want to get the top end of the market, paying $12-15 million, or saving some money and spending in the $6 to $8 range, I think you can get a solid either number 1 corner or number 2 corner, depending on who you pick up, pairing him with Trey Amos, Mikey Sanders-Show, and potentially Quan Martin in the cornerback room. I don't think you can do much wrong there. But obviously you have to find someone that is decent in man coverage, decent in zone coverage, and able to pick up the Durante Jones scheme, a lot of movement, a lot of match coverage as well, and someone that has the football IQ and not just the physical skill set. But let me know down in the comments, are these guys cornerbacks that you want the Washington Commanders to look into picking up in this free agency cycle? I think adding a corner this free agency would be a very good pickup, especially since there's so much talent on the free agency market. There's really no reason to wait until the draft to get a solid corner. I think you can definitely get a number 1 or number 2 guy in this free agency. But let me know who your guy is down in the comments and who you want the Commanders to target in this year's free agency cycle. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is the end of the video. Go down below, drop a like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications to know when I post next. You guys will be notified whenever I post another Commanders video just like this. I really do appreciate you guys watching to the very end. Thank you guys so much for watching. God bless, and hail to the Commanders.